Hello, this is my presentation. I'm Felicity Walters, and I will be discussing wealth inequality. I titled it The Imbalance of Wealth. So, oftentimes we get confused between what is rich and what is wealth. I associate rich with having money, but wealth is being invested into a business, having property, having money in the savings account, having other assets just besides monetary things. So that's what I associate with wealth. About a 0.1% of our population, they hold about 20% of the wealth in our country. A country that is known for prosperity, that is known to have abundance of resources, a place that you can constantly grow in. And so it develops an issue known as wealth inequality when more than half of the population is either in poverty or in the middle class, stuck in the middle class, or barely there. And so it poisons that thought process of why people aren't obtaining wealth in this great country, this great area, this great land, this place where you have numerous of education opportunities, numerous of job opportunities. You have companies like Apple where you have entrepreneurs starting companies, Fortune 500 companies. You have CEOs of companies. So what is causing this huge disparity in the huge gap? One thing that you can look at, our aspect or factor, is the change in the economy. The world is constantly changing, and I believe, especially America, is moving towards a technology based economy. You say in life you decided not to go to college and you started working at a factory. You would never think your factory job would be eliminated due to a machine being built. Machines are constantly being built to decrease the human workload. And from a business standpoint of view, that's really good. But is it good for the human being? Companies are outsourcing and going overseas where you can pay people less money to do the same workload that you're doing here in America, but they would take that lesser pay. And so you as the American, you're having to find a job that is the job going to be stability? Is the job going to bring me a valuable income? And am I qualified for that job? More so being with the factor of being qualified, is the education level that I have going to keep me on that job? And we don't even have to think about it in a sense of, oh, because they don't have the education level or this type of education that they don't have, they can't get this job. But that's how it really is in reality. The level of education that you have, it determines your income. And when you have a stable income, you can accumulate wealth. For instance, let's just take two people for example. You have one person who doesn't have a job. They're constantly trying to look for work. They're in and out of being fired. Then you have that other person who's been working at this company for years. Their income, they get bonuses. So that first person, we shouldn't expect them to have a good savings account. But that second person, we should expect them to have a savings account, maybe to have obtained some level of education with being for that company for so long. But more so, let's think of a bigger picture. Looking at the education level and the rises of students or adults going to college, going to secondary education. It could also have to do with your family. Were you born to a family that was poverty? So you were born into poverty. Can you even see yourself being in the middle class? Is middle class even in your vocabulary in your home? Is going to school even in your vocabulary, or is saying some students even currently here, especially those migrant workers, they'd rather their children be in the fields working instead of going to school. So people are often battling money, making sure that their family has food on their table over an education. And so that leads to that inequality and that disparity, that gap between the poor and the middle class. And then, we can also take a look at the demographics, who you are as an individual, what are you made of. We can look at different charts, and even in our textbook, it tells us that African Americans, 10.7 million, are in poverty. Hispanics, 13.1 million, are in poverty. So just those simple statistics can show us that many people are poor based off of just race. But then let's look at gender. There was a huge issue years ago, and it still is an issue today. Women are paid less than men. Is that fair? No. One would say our country's founded by men, so that's probably why it leads to that. But that should not be today. That should not be the resultant answer. And I don't think that's the resultant answer. But why are women paid less than men? When women work just as hard as men, and if we go back to the last slide, women are obtaining education just as much as men. So why are they being paid less? Because let's just be factual. If you're a minority, you already have to work twice as hard just to be seen, just to be heard, just to say, I'm here. And so, if you're a woman of a minority group, you can only imagine the workload, the thought process of obtaining wealth in their mind if society has classified that men should get paid more than women. And since that's the issue, where does the problem stem from? Where do we look at it at? Another part of demographics is when you grow up in poverty, that has to do with education. Let's back, like I said on the last slide, your family, based off of your family, many children grow up in poverty. And if you come from a single parent home, that means the income is less than having two parents. So you're having one parent pull the weight for the children. So is there a savings account for that one parent? Is that one parent thinking about owning multiple houses? Is that single parent thinking about starting a business? So who you are plays a role in your wealth. You know, what type of family do you come from? What type of environment do you come from? Is the place that you grow up in, are there opportunities for a good level education? Are you receiving public education? Or are you receiving private education or charter education? What type of parents do you have? Parents who push you to go above and beyond, or parents who are telling you, good job, but at the age of 16, 14, 15, you have to go get a job just so you can be able to make sure dinner is on the table? The type of environment that you grew up in, are you grew up in an environment that gunshots are being shot outside of your home? Are you grow up in an environment when you come home, the street lights is quiet? Are you being exposed to college tour trips? Are you being exposed to the greater things in life? Oftentimes, the middle or upper class families, their children are exposed to things that children who are in the poverty or poorer class cannot be exposed to. And so when we ask ourselves, who are we? And we examine who we are, we really have to think about how does that affect the level of wealth that I can obtain. And when we say, if we realize that who we are, we can really understand whose fault is it that we have this large disparity. One would say, well, we're all given the same opportunity. We're all born in America. We're all given the same opportunity, so we should all be able to. You choose, you make your choice. You decide how you want to live. And that's true. That's a good point to argue. But more so, you can say our world is controlled by a our world is controlled by a demo, democracy. We have a government who has different branches. Is that government in our favor? Are they passing bills, making laws in our favor? Is our state creating an environment that education is something important to us? That no matter where you live at or where you're from, you're receiving a good value education? Is opportunity just because I live in the ghetto or the poor side of town, is those opportunities that are on the richer side of town, those opportunities available to me? And who is power? Who has power? Do I have power as the average citizen? Or is my power just my vote? Do I have a power like the electoral commissioner, the electoral college? Do I have that type of power? Or what power do I have as a human being? So when we ask ourselves who we are and we look at our environment, we look at our family, we look at the generations that have come before us and we examine their wealth, we have to really ask ourselves, whose fault is it that this wealth inequality has grown such a big gap? Or was it the system in general, this whole system that we have been living by, this system that was created, that has been designed? Was it even meant for me to grow in? Was it even considered that I would be in that 0.1%? Or or am I in the larger percentile of people who are not wealthy? And has the government provided us with so many opportunities of welfare and different assistances? Have I become too comfortable with those? Have I come too dependable on those type of programs that I don't even see myself becoming wealthy? I just see rich. Because I get rich, I get money quickly. But I don't see myself investing in a business. I don't see myself investing in company stocks, owning a house. This gap in understanding who's to blame, if we continue to point the finger instead of saying these questions are serious questions that need answers, but they need to be not only answered but solved, then we could change our reality. Then we could decrease this gap. Then we can say, let's create this program to initiate, to innovate change in this community. Gentrification is sometimes may seem a little harsh. For example, it's currently happening where I'm from. I'm from Tampa, Florida, and gentrification is happening. It's kind of harsh because you're moving people out of their hometown, their place where they grew up, the place where they created their childhood memories, but you're causing them to push themselves to the suburbs, which suburbs are more developed. They have better restaurants. Let's go to the basic example. Better restaurants. They have homes, apartments. They have better schooling in the suburbs. So That's just one example of how the world is changing and improving to try to decrease this gap. But as we try to figure out what things to do, we also have to remember there are some forces that are constantly trying to increase the gap. You have companies cutting hours, companies cutting budgets. Budgets are being cut across the board. Crime is still continuing to increase. Racial stereotypes, racial discrimination can cause a ethnic group to be stuck into this one mindset. But wealth inequality is changing in numbers, but these factors such as the economy, the level of education, and the demographics, they can affect a person from obtaining some sort of wealth. And how do I see us as millennials changing the wealth inequality gap? I think we did a good start by coming to college. Not just coming to college, I believe that we can do more by graduating. And not just graduating, but investing that knowledge that we learned back into our communities to help make our communities better, to help change. Also, to practice good financial literacy skills. If we take out a credit card to pay that off before the month is over, before interest fees accumulate, to become homeowners, to try to get married and to try to raise our children in a two-parent household, to try to even if we have an entrepreneurship, to try to become entrepreneurs who 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 create businesses that are flourishing. And not only just because you're an entrepreneur, you can be broke too because your business is not a lucrative business. So we have to think about all those things. But when I say let's take action, I think as millennials, we can change this gap if we work together. We can make it much more decrease. And instead of inequality, we can change it to wealth inequality changing over time. These are the sources that I cited. Once again, my name is Felicity Walters, and thank you.